afternoon and welcome to My Harlem Portraits, the show that talks about Black excellence in every field. Today, we have the epitome of Black excellence with us, our guest, Voza Rivers. Welcome to My Harlem Portrait.
Thank you, Maria, and welcome to the viewers.
Thank you. Voza is the executive producer and founding member of New Heritage Theater Group, which was established in 1964. He's also the executive producer and the co-founder of Impact Repertoire Theater, which is a fantastic Oscar-nominated youth division of the New Heritage Theater, and is led by former Black Panther activist and educator Jamal Joseph. I'm starting just with this for now because otherwise it would be too much to introduce everything about you. So first of all, I want to congratulate you for your latest awards that you received. You received a few days ago the AUDELCO Lifetime Achievement Award. And in November, you received the Ossie Davis Award in recognitions of your work as a theater producer and documentary filmmaker. And this was given to you by the National Black Writers Conference. What do these awards mean to you? And if you can explain a little bit what the AUDELCO is, because our viewers are also in Europe, so I want them to understand the importance of this.
Okay. So I'll start with the most recent award, which was the Lifetime Achievement Award. So AUDELCO, which was founded 48 years ago by a group of ladies headed by a woman by the name of Vivian Robinson, with a mission of celebrating Black theater, but more importantly, during the course of our theatrical seasons each year, they would bring audiences to see our plays. And to us, back in those days, that was extremely important to have audiences that looked like us because we were telling our stories. And there became a need for the kind of support of bringing audiences to see the work for our theaters, which was very important. That also elevated us to get a sense by listening to what the ladies were saying, traveling from theater to theater. Perhaps if they were in my theater, New Heritage, and after the show there was a conversation and then Vivian would say, girl or boy, I just saw another play at Black Spectrum Theater in Queens, and it was so good. They shared information. So hearing that would perk my interest to go ahead and let me go to Queens and see what they were doing. So it was an informal communications that we all enjoyed and appreciated. But when they decided to also give us awards for excellence, because they were going from theater to theater, seeing these plays, and then making a decision that we now need to honor our own because we were not being recognized by the major theatrical awards presenters. And for that, I thank Vivian Robinson, because in 1948, when I went to my first AUDELCO award, I was there with my mentor, Roger Furman, who was just assuring with me the importance of connecting with these women and understanding what they're doing. Little did I know that that first opportunity to sit and see them acknowledge Black actors would become such a big event over the years. And then when you look at the awardees, it's some of, you know, the major artists who have now transcended to film, to Broadway, international work. It's just a beautiful story to tell about AUDELCO, and I'm just so glad that they recognize the work that I've been doing over the years. So that's what the AUDELCO Awards is about. It's about giving out awards for excellence in Black theater.
And it's the only existing awards that specifically gives awards not only to actors and
directors, playwrights, all of the above, and it's beautifully done. And I was honored to be selected this year. When I think about a few weeks earlier at the National Black Writers Conference at Medgar Evers College, this was another type of award. And that award was given to me in the memory and in the name of Ossie Davis. And of course, I was very surprised because I did not think that the women of the National Black Writers Organization knew my relationship with Ossie Davis, but they thought that the work was worthy of being associated with him. Well, when I joined New Heritage Theater in 1964, and I met Roger Furman, who was starting his theater, and he shared with me that this theater that he is now building is built on the experiences he had at the American Negro Theater that was in the basement of a library on 135th Street. And he further talked about the artists. They were all in their 20s. Some were a little older, but most of them were in their 20s, where they were members learning all the crafts of theater, from directing, playwriting, building sets, the box office, all of those things. But in addition to that, they also learned how to be activists, to articulate what was happening. So you didn't have to only see them on the stage and see how well they acted. You could also get a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose. Ruby Dee, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, Gertrude Jeanette. Ossie Davis wasn't actually a member of the American Negro Theater, but of course we know he married Ruby Dee, and he was with another Black theater company, and on occasion he would be casted in American Negro Theater productions, so we always include him as a member. So Roger decides to start his own theater in 1964, and the people that gathered around him to encourage him to start the theater were Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee and Harry Belafonte. And in addition to that, it gave Roger a stamp of approval that he was going to continue his theater in the tradition of the American Negro Theater, almost like a replica 20-something years later. And here I was as a volunteer seeing this. When Roger died in 1983, and I was asked to take over the theater, it was Ossie and Ruby who said, "We're here for you. We love Roger Furman. We love the fact that you supported him all these years." Because I was a volunteer. I was never a paid member of this theater. I was always a volunteer. I had other activities that supported me. And so fast forward, Roger passes, Ossie and Ruby put their arms around me and says, "We're there. Anytime you need us, just call us." And then now to understand that in 2020, I would be given an award in the honor of Ossie Davis just blew me away. I can't begin to tell you. They said I was getting an award, but I never knew it was an Ossie Davis award until maybe a few days before. And I was just so appreciative of it. So Dr. Brenda Green and her staff and all of the people on the committee. Again, this is another opportunity to publicly say thank you and how honored I was to be on the receiving end of someone who assisted me in my early years of being in the theater and who I admired, not only as mentors, but as friends.
Wonderful. It's wonderful to be recognized by your peers and the
Yes.
people who work around you. Wonderful. You were recognized in many other circumstances because you are all around. You have produced and co-produced theater, music, television projects, film festival, music tributes, but not only in the United States. You've gone to Japan, to South Africa, to the UK. And in the 80s, you produced a Tony and Grammy nominated, two Tony and Grammy nominated groundbreaking South African plays. Asini Mali in 87,
Yes.
and Farafina in 88. And these productions were very important because they contributed to educate people in the United States and Harlemites about the struggle of the apartheid that was happening in South Africa at the time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Roger Furman died in 1983, and I took over the theater in 83. In late 83, early 1984, I met a South African student who had just left South Africa and was attending Hunter College, but he was living in Harlem with Hugh Masekela. And one day, Phyllis Yvonne Stickney, an actress from our theater and a producer, brought Duma by the theater and introduced me to this young man. And as we met and he was talking about theater, trying to find out what we were doing in Harlem and giving him a quick portrait of what it was like and how we tackle current events and history. We not only entertain, but we educate. He said, well, that's very much like what's happening in our country, except that if we were found to be presenting anything that was that cast a negative spotlight on the apartheid government, that we could be locked up and placed in jail indefinitely. And so it was kind of an interesting conversation. Then he said, but you know, it just so happens that if you could attend a production, a South African production that's traveling at the Lucille Hotel Theater in the Village, you can see two actors who just exploded on the off-Broadway stage, and they're down in the Village. So we all tracked down to the Village to see these two actors. They were in a show called Woza Albert, two actors dealing with the whole South African dilemma about apartheid. The show was so good that these two actors won the Obie Award, which is the imprimatur of approval by the off-Broadway community.
Yes.
The actors after the performance said, you know, we've been here for a few months. I see all of these people, but I don't see many people that look like us. And I want to know, where are they and why don't they come to this theater? And I shared with them that, well, it's very difficult when we don't know what's happening in these theaters because they don't market or promote to us. So they have their own subscribers, they market to them, and they perpetuate building their audience based on that model. They're not advertising in anything Black, even though it's a Black play. And the two artists said, but you're in Harlem. We heard so much about Harlem. We got to come to Harlem. And so we got the producer, the downtown producer, to give us permission to bring the two guys uptown so that we can do a special performance in our small 99-seat theater. And we did that performance, and it was magic. And these guys thought that they were in South Africa. They said all of these Black people, they knew that they were home. After the performance, they went back to South Africa and said, you must be our producer for the next thing, that whatever it is that we do, we have to come to Harlem first. I don't care what company wants to book us, they got to come to Harlem and you have to present us. And that was a vote of confidence that they saw something with us, with my little group, that they would make a statement like that. So they went back home and they started working on another play. This is a year later, and the play was called Asinamali. And Asinamali is a Zulu word for we have no money, and it dealt with the rent strikes in South Africa, all right? So I get a call. I'm excited that I'm going to do this play whenever it's ready. The first play had 2 characters. The second play had 5. I have a 99-seat theater. I thought this would be a no-brainer. However, the funders of the theater didn't see that I should be looking at bringing in South African actors, even though they were actors of color, to Harlem, 10,000 miles away, when we have all these African-American local artists who I should be marketing and promoting. And I very politely said, for 20 years that I've been here, we have done with Rogers Vision African-American plays written by some of the great writers, and that I just wanted to expand his vision by bringing in the international writers of color, and it just so happens that it's South Africa. They said, okay.
Say one thing. This is what makes you the great person and producer you are. Because in my opinion, there are very few people everywhere in general who are willing and capable of expanding as much as you do and of collaborating as much as you do. And I think that is your characteristic, which is fantastic, because I've never seen anybody doing as much with as many different societies, let's call, as you do, Voza. And I think that is so encomiable and so wonderful, because you are opening everybody's eyes to the world.
Well, Maria, first of all, I want to thank you for that observation. You know, I don't see it that way. Yes, I'm humble about what I do, but when these guys saw what we did in Harlem and they were so impacted by it, it was an important milestone for them to say they came from Johannesburg or from Soweto to downtown to Harlem. And it was. So they said to me, do this next play. I commit on the spot that when you're ready, I'm going to do it, sight unseen. But they said, you must come to South Africa. And I said, absolutely. So I then went to get a visa, and I was denied a visa to go to South Africa because I was on a list of undesirables because I did the first play.
Because you were an activist.
Okay. But they said, Voza, you must do this play. And I said, I will find a way. Now we're saying, I haven't seen the work. I could only hear, and they said, listen to this. Over the telephone, I would listen to their rehearsals because I couldn't go. And I was so impressed and so moved by what I heard. Something else happened that a lot of people don't know around this play. While they were rehearsing, preparing, because I found the money with my kids, to money I saved, and I put it together so that I could bring them into the United States, sight unseen. The week before, as they were rehearsing in South Africa at a church, the establishment came in with machetes. They were rehearsing and killed the producer, hacked him to death, and they were coming after the 5 actors. The 5 actors saw the commotion, guys with machetes, and they ran out the back of the church, and they went into people's homes to escape from this. It would have been a massacre because they did not want this play to come to the United States. Now, when they arrived and they told me the story, I said, well, you know, there's some divine power. I committed to you guys, not even understanding how important this work was, that they would send out an assassination squad to kill you guys and what you were doing. They were so happy. They were home in Harlem. And from that moment on, you know, Quincy Jones came to see it, Harry Belafonte, Paul Simon, all of these luminaries came to this small theater to see these guys perform. It toured, and a year later, Harry Belafonte says, you had to go to Broadway. So first time that happened, Harry Belafonte was the executive producer, Miriam Makeba, Paul Simon, and a host of others took that show that I brought into the United States sight unseen to Broadway, and it was nominated for a Tony. So
and
the guys,
over the world.
Yes, but the guys are excited, and they go back and they said, listen, in South Africa, we have an organization called Committed Artists. And our philosophy is that we are training artists to be our ambassadors, to go around the world, to receive donations and dollars for what they do, come back, and then train the next group of artists with monies that they receive in other countries. Great concept. So now so then they said to me, we're going back, we're going to write a musical, and you're going to have to produce it. I'm elated that they made that statement again. I didn't know they were in rehearsal. They said, Voza, you have to produce it, and you have to come and find a way to come to South Africa.
Which year was this now?
Huh?
Which year was this now?
This is 88. All right, so I started out in 84, 87. Now we're talking about 88. And so they're in rehearsals in South Africa. They tell me you got to come to see it. And I said, how many artists is in the play? Because I assumed that it was going to be similar to the other plays with a very small cast, because my theater only held 99 to 100 seats if I stretched it. And they said, well, don't you worry, Voza. We're coming to Harlem. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. I said, how many people? And they said, 35. I said, are you guys crazy? How can I bring 35 people to Harlem to perform on this small stage? And as luck would have it, I said, listen, I got to talk to somebody. And because of the success of the previous play that went to Broadway, Lincoln Center came to that play to see it, and I got a chance to meet the heads of Lincoln Center Theater. And Greg Moshe was the artistic director, and he said he's going to South Africa. I went to South Africa, and we saw the play. And Greg says, man, this is one of the best musicals that I've seen, and we have to do it. The we didn't include me, but the artist said, you have to work with Voza and his theater because he is going to represent us.
Wow.
And and Lincoln Center was very pleased with that because they had seen the work before, and now they had a community-based partner that they could also work with.
Exactly.
And the rest is history. Uh, 5 nominations for Tonys, a musical soundtrack where Hugh Masekela, myself, and the writer, we worked on, and we were all nominated for Grammy Awards. We had a 2.5-year run on Broadway, another 2.5 years around the nation. And then we did an international company that they made me in charge of, the South Africans, so that I oversaw it going to Japan, going into other countries throughout Africa, and made me the head of Committed Artists US, which is a training lab for all of those artists in South Africa. And I still do that today. So presently, and this is breaking news for you, I was a year ago, last month, I was in South Africa, and the writer, producer of all of the work that I produced from South Africa was given a huge grant by the government to do a musical on the life of Nelson and Winnie Mandela, a love story musical. And so we were preparing for that, and they said, Voza, you're the producer. You know, they're telling me exactly what my role would be. I'm visiting for other reasons, and they're telling me that this just happened while I was there, and you have to head this up internationally. Well, COVID hit and everything was put on hold. And 2 weeks ago, I get a call that the government really wants to go into rehearsals soon so that this can happen sometime late 2021, early 2022, but it has to go into rehearsals. And Voza, you need to lead this opportunity to tell this story. So again, it's, yes.
Wonderful. So you are going to do that again. Oh my God.
Yes, yes.
This is so amazing. We have so much more to say. So, but we are at the end of this part. So what I'm going to do, if you have the time, we're going to stop here, and we're going to start another one just after this.
Okay, what time?
As now, after this.
Oh, okay. All right, stop. And start. Yes.
We thank the public for this. This is going to be the first part of the interview with Mr. Voza Rivers. We'll see you next time for the second part of the interview with Mr. Voza Rivers. Thank you for being with us at My Harlem Portraits. Thank you, Voza.
Thank you, Maria.
See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to My Harlem Portraits, to Voza Rivers. We had so much to say about you that we couldn't finish it last time. So we're having a new interview to talk about the other part of your engagements. And we're going to talk, first of all, about music, because you have produced, among others, for the most amazing international world recognized artists like Nancy Wilson, Nina Simone, Ruby Dee, Luther Vandross, James Brown, the Count Basie Orchestra, Ray Charles, Ashford and Simpson, Boy George, George Benson, Tito Puente, Lionel Hampton, Isaac Hayes I loved, Celia Cruz, Miriam Makeba, and Chaka Khan. I used to dance to Isaac Hayes when I was a little girl. So the most amazing artist in the world. On top of that, music and theater, you're also engaged politically in the business, in the civil rights activity, because you are the first vice president of Lloyd Williams' Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, and you are the executive producer of Harlem Week. Harlem Week began in 1974, and it was supposed to be a one-day tribute to Harlem, but over these 40 years, it has evolved and it has become a month-long celebration of the Harlem's economic, political, and cultural history. And it attracts every time over 2 million attendees that come from all over the world. So congratulations for all these things you do. It seems that the pandemic hasn't stopped you, quite the opposite. How do you do all that?
First and foremost, I just want to thank those people who have taken the journey with me, and I have to go back to the beginning. I'll start with Roger Furman in 1964, because through him I learned the tools that were necessary to be able to produce. I have to also thank my grandfather who grew up in the West Indies and came to this country at a very early age. And my grandfather had a major influence on me because he was a multiple taskmaster. And I used to be out with him and about with him, going various places. He belonged to a large and booked talent from the Caribbean, and his eyes were failing him. I was a young kid, and I used to go with him and read the contracts for artists. I would go with him when he went to book the dance halls for the yearly galas, things like that. Didn't understand as a young kid, but I was always with him, seeing me and exposed. So I started with my grandfather, followed by Roger Furman, and then Lloyd and I, as kids, we grew up in Harlem, and we were Boy Scouts together, and we decided to be involved in our culture. We created an organization called Blackfrica that took trips throughout the world, from Africa to Brazil to Europe. And we would bring our families with us and share the culture. We morphed from that into, again, creating that one-day event in 1974 called Harlem Day, where New York was at its lowest ebb, with a scourge of drug abuse and businesses closed and people leaving the community. And the Honorable Percy Sutton came and talked to us about having a one-day event that would help solidify the individuals who stayed in Harlem in spite of all of the deterioration that was around us. And that one-day event, the celebration included the renaming of 7th Avenue in honor of Adam Clayton Powell Jr., and the first day in the history of Harlem that a street was named after a person of color. That one day morphed into a week. The week morphed into 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and now a month. And for the last 45 years, we have watched Harlem Week grow from a community-based event, which it still is. It's in the heart of Harlem, all over Harlem, but it now has international and global appeal. And we're very proud of the contributions that we have made to the history of Harlem in terms of what Harlem is known as the cultural capital of Black America. So we feel that the foundation laid by the Harlem Renaissance and those artists who participated, that we had an obligation to continue their mission. And that's what's happened. When you mention some of the artists, even that is so unique for me. I had other businesses. I had a film company called Greenlight Films. We were formed to do the Bob Marley story way back then, where there were no other Blacks doing it, and we raised our own dollars, but we couldn't get the film made because of the multiple challenges of getting permission from the multiple wives that Bob Marley had to get them to sign off. We paid dearly for that because we were negotiating with all of them to do the Bob Marley story. But in addition to that, I had another organization called New York Entertainment and Sports Advisors, 2 attorneys and myself, and we did contract negotiation, financial planning, taxes, and legal work for athletes and entertainers. And our first big client was Count Basie and the Count Basie Orchestra. And so we had that. We had a show on Broadway called Dream Girls, and we represented Ben Harney, who won the Tony that year for Best Actor in a Musical. And then we started working on the Martin Luther King celebration we had Harry Belafonte as the MC. We had so many of those artists that you mentioned performed for that very first opportunity to celebrate the birthday. And I was always a guy hands-on with Lloyd back then, producing these events and activities. When we talk about the Apollo Theater and working with the Honorable Percy Sutton, myself, Jose Ferrer, Arthur Barnes, and others decided that we should blend the African culture and Cuban and Puerto Rican culture together. So we decided to do a concert at the Apollo with Miriam Makeba, Tito, Puente, Hugh Masekela.
Oh my God.
And of course, the queen of Latin, Celia Cruz, all on one stage. Then I go to Japan. I'm invited to do an outdoor concert in front of a historic castle built in the 2000s. It's the oldest historic castle in the world. 10,000 people, and the headline is Ray Charles. The headline is James Brown. On the same bill, okay, Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, all on the same concert. And you couldn't do that kind of concert in the United States with those different artists like that. But I had that opportunity. That just gives you a sense of the global reach. I'm very, very involved in Japan. In fact, I got married in Japan with my ex-wife. That we had a wonderful relationship, and we decided to get married in Japan while I was on one of those trips. So the Japanese and I, with my partnership with Mr. Katsuya Abe, I can't begin to tell you how many events we've done, but we were invited to produce events in the major venues in Japan. The Tokyo Dome, 45,000, Nagoya Dome, 55,000. And this little Japanese guy and this tall black guy are in Japan producing this kind of work at this level and bringing over these artists. I mean, it's been an amazing journey. I know I'm blessed. I know that sometimes when I talk to people, not like yourself or others, I'm reluctant to say what I do because I don't believe that people could even believe that someone could do the things that I've done. So I'm usually, if you meet me, I'm very quiet. I am not this talkative because it's just amazing the gift that God has given me to be able to do all I've done with so many good people around the world.
I'm learning so much about you in these 2 conversations because it is right. You are not a very talkative person when you are outside. So I am learning all this incredible stuff, right? And it blows my mind because I knew you were doing a lot, but this is not just a lot. This is over the top. And I believe that this is due to the fact that you are, like I said before, a 360% collaborative person, and you are like a sponge. You want to know everything, and you want to put in connection different cultures And that's what you get. The result you get is amazing. You are collaborating also, for example, not only in the arts, but to promote civil rights, voting rights, Black businesses, organizing town halls. I mean, you're doing everything. You're collaborating with 100 Black men. You just sent an invitation to sign up for, to apply for small businesses grants. Sorry. You collaborate with Gail Brew, Manhattan Borough President. You're doing so much with her. You collaborate with the Coalition of Black Theaters, with Harlem Arts Alliance, with Jazzmobile. You've done things with National Yiddish Theater, Israeli Artists Project, Kairos Italy Theater, New York Classical Theater, Pan-Asian Repertory Theater, Repertorio Español, Turkish American Repertory Theater, Cuba, Japan. I mean, you have collaborated with the world. So tell me now what you have been doing during this pandemic. What has helped you to continue to do what you're doing, especially taking into account not only the fact that the pandemic has hurt African Americans more than any other, I call nationality, not race.
Yes.
Okay? Ethnicity. And what's next?
A series of virtual programs that we're doing. March was an event. It was on March the 8th, and we started closing down things on March the 9th. So that Sunday, for that Friday, I had produced a group from South Africa where the entire company couldn't come because they had already started restrictions on flight, but the musicians came and one vocalist, and I decided to move forward and do that show. That was on a Friday evening. That Sunday, I had a group of dancers from Cuba and musicians called Oyud Oro from Santiago de Cuba. And I knew that I wanted to do that. Now, word had already hit that this virus was happening, and these were the only two things left on my agenda that I had to do publicly. And I really felt that what I would do and not expect is to honor the commitment to showcase the artist, but with an expectation that few people would come out, and that if they did come out, I wanted to make sure that there was distance and the seating. In both instances, that Friday and Sunday, I had maximum attendance. And I held my breath, I said, because I had people separated in church pews when I only had 3 or 4 people in a pew. When I looked up, there were 8 all sitting together wanting, and I was embarrassed because I'm talking about, they told us that the pandemic is here, et cetera, et cetera. But it also showed me that people were yearning for our culture.
Yes.
And I found a way, as usual, to be able to bring these various artists to the community who want to be in this community. And my greatest aspiration is to show the community how much I love and appreciate them. And the show goes on, as they say. And that's what Harlem Week is. That's what the Chamber has been doing for the last 126 years. Okay. Yes, Lloyd is the president, and yes, I'm the first vice president, and it's a wonderful partnership. Yes, you talk about New Heritage Theater, but I couldn't do it without Jamal Joseph. Jamal Joseph is our senior executive artistic director. Jamal Joseph is a professor at Columbia University and in the graduate film program. So he and I together have done over 51 documentaries. Okay, 51 documentaries documenting organizations and individuals that we feel are important to our arts and culture. If you come to my office, you'll think you're in a museum because there's so many articles and pictures and videos of the things that we have been involved with over this 50-something year period that is all housed in the offices that we have on 135th Street. I grew up on 132nd Street.
Oh, you're just round
My
the corner.
office is on 135th Street. The Schomburg Theater, the Schomburg is on 135th Street. The school that I went to, the Frederick Douglass Academy, was on 139th Street. When I was a kid, our boundaries were, don't you go past 116th Street on the south side, and don't you go past 145th Street on the north side. That is the geographical area I grew up in, and I respected my parents, and I didn't go into other areas that they didn't give me permission to go into. And yet, from that humble beginning, I've gone around the world. And so for me, I carry the Harlem spirit with me. Everywhere I go, I'm just proud to be a part of those individuals who are continuing to contribute to the reputation of Harlem being a cultural capital of Black America.
It is amazing all you've been doing. Maybe you should start doing a documentary about your life. I think you should start that now. Okay? It's time. Between you and Joseph, you have so much. You could talk about all the Black Panther movement seen from inside.
Yes. Oh,
right?
yes.
Right? And your life, it's about 2 movies that we are waiting on.
Well, I can end on this one, because what I didn't tell you is that I was in the police department as a detective all the time that I was doing all of these things.
Oh my God.
I met Jamal right after I had left the police department, and he had just come out of prison. And we decided that because we both live in Harlem, that we would want to share our stories with the young people who live in the Harlem community. And because I had done the work in South Africa with all of those kids, 35 of them coming to South Africa, and Jamal was a member of the Black Panther and the children's feeding program, we saw similarities. And
Yeah.
we both lived in Harlem, and we said, let's talk to young people. Let them understand that they can be in the same shoes that we're wearing, because they can do it the same way we did it. And so that story is something that clearly we're both working on together. But again, it's an amazing journey that I know that I've had all these years.
I'm so honored that you accepted to do these interviews with me, because what I'm doing with this show is my way of giving back to
Yes.
Harlem, who has really welcomed me.
Yes.
As a family.
We love you. We love you, sweetie. We love you.
I feel home here more than
Yes.
I feel home in Italy.
Yes,
Much
yes,
more.
yes.
It's incredible. You are really my family. And the fact that I can have a conversation with you about this amazing happenings and the things that you managed to do, it just fills my heart. Because when I was a little girl, I read the Malcolm X biography.
Yes.
And that's what made me want to come to Harlem.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
That's what made me, I want to see Harlem. I want to go to Harlem and know the culture. And now that I live here, I'm so happy.
Yes.
This is, to me, is the center of not only the Black art and culture, but of the world art and culture, because Black music, Black culture is the root of all the music that we're listening to.
Yes.
So it's amazing. So one more word about what's the next thing, immediate thing that we are gonna see?
Well, yeah, On December 9th, we're doing a premiere screening of this production of Othello, all female, a female actress by the name of Deborah Ann Bird, who I've been working with. We have about 3 more, before the end of the month, we have 3 more presentations that you'll hear more about. And the Chamber, the Greater Harlem Chamber, is going to do a year-end 2020 wrap-up of all of the things that we have been doing since the pandemic hit. And that will be, you know, a special that we're going to do this month. And that's how I'm going to end the year working on that project.
Fantastic. Wonderful. And I'm glad I was supposed to go to Italy next week, but because of, and see my family with my family, but because of what's going on of here and there, I don't think I'm gonna go. It will be my first Christmas not spending with my family, but I will be with my family in Harlem. So I'll be able to see all this.
Yes. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. But you've been a real support. Every time I look up, there you are. And believe me, no, that's much appreciated. I mean, out of sincerity, you definitely are a supporter of our arts and culture.
Thank you. It's because it's a beautiful, wonderful art, and it's a beautiful culture that I appreciate a lot. So, Voza Rivers, the great Voza Rivers, thank you for having been with us for this show. Thank you for being with all the viewers of My Harlem Portraits, and best wishes for these events towards the end of the year. And let's terminate on a good note. We have a new administration.
Yes.
In the White House.
Yes.
2020, goodbye.
Yes.
It's gonna be a new year, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of things will change for the better, much better.
Right. So all of your viewers, we wish you a glorious holiday and a beautiful new year, because 2021 is knocking at the door.
That's right.
I want to say thank you.
Thank you again. And thank you to our viewers. Bye-bye. See you next Saturday at My Harlem Portraits, 12:30.